On May Day, more than 1 million Parisians marched along the historic route between the Place de la République and the Bastille in the largest workers' parade in the city's history, shouting their abhorrence of the bombing and pleas for aid to both its victims and Spain's Republican government. And on that day as well, Pablo Picasso executed the first of 6 of what ultimately would be 6 sketches and drawings in preparation for the mural, a painting his huge anger now compelled him to commence. During the months since he had been asked to consider taking on the Spanish Pavilion project, he imagined that a fitting subject for the mural might well be a painter at work in his studio. But now that decidedly self-absorbed theme demanded to be replaced by another. As he explained in a public statement issued a few days later, one that defined his position on the war more explicitly than ever before, "In the picture I am now working on and that I will call Guernica, and in all my recent work, I clearly express my loathing for the military caste that has plunged Spain into a sea of suffering and death." Before he put his wet brushes into turpentine in the early evening of May 11, the celebrated painter already had worked so long and with such dispatch that he had filled the whole of the 3.5 by 7.75 meter canvas, 11 feet 6 inches high by 25 feet 8 inches long, with line drawings of the many images he had been working out on paper during the preceding days. The painting he would call Guernica, as the name is said in both Spanish and French, already had begun to take tentative shape, and the often uncomfortably intersecting realms of politics and art, and of human misery and aspiration, never would be the same again. Although I stood in front of the painting for the first time only in middle age, I came to know something about Guernica, and it began to matter immensely to me when I was still a boy, one who had traveled 1/3 of the way round the world to live in Spain for a year. The time was 1968. The painting by then had long been resident in New York City, and the people of Spain continued to live under the cruel and despotic control of Generalissimo Francisco Franco, the diminutive but boldly defiant leader of the military revolt that had thrust Spain into civil war more than 3 decades before. The whole of the planet appeared to have lost its ethical moorings in that year of assassinations, cancerous foreign wars, and bitter demonstrations. And as it had for millions of young people throughout the world, the painting might have seemed to me more immediately emblematic of the violence then being visited on the citizens of Vietnam than an event that took place in a town in the Basque region of Spain half a lifetime before. But because I discovered Guernica in totalitarian Spain, and because an extraordinary teacher in Barcelona had introduced the painting to his American students solely in the context of the terrible war he had observed as a boy, Guernica initially for me was more fundamentally an historical accounting, a terrifyingly vivid depiction of a singular and awful event than a universalized symbol of the horrors of war. Angel Villalta, a young, vibrant Spanish art and culture professor, wanted his American students to get to know El Guernica only after he first brought the tragedies of the Spanish Civil War to troubling life for us, and ensured that the bombing of the town of Guernica was something we would viscerally apprehend. Picasso's Guernica was a report from the front lines of that war, first of all, and it spoke insistent truth to Señor Villalta and subsequently to us. He made us understand the stark reality that fascism remained alive and well, in Spain at least, in the late 1960s, yet also that Picasso's by then long-acknowledged masterpiece was proof that art sometimes can transfigure catastrophe, and he eloquently voiced his conviction as well that his country's art and literature mattered far more than its politics in the end. I had not seen Angel Villalta, now 75, in the 3 decades since I watched him recede from view on a platform at Barcelona's Estación de Francia on a bright June day in 1969, all of us American schoolboys bound for Le Havre and a ship that would return us home to the United States 9 days later. When I returned to Spain at long last in September 2001 to view the remarkable painting and investigate its history, I also wanted to pay a kind homage to him and his vital mentoring of so many young Americans. Angel's eyes often danced during our 3-day reunion as he repeatedly spoke of the miracle that had occurred in Spain since I had waved goodbye to him. Spain becoming open and democratic, and its citizens blessedly free without first having to suffer the bloodshed that had seemed inevitable back when an elderly